Hello, I'm State Representative Jeanine Nodder, and you're watching Chattin' with Jeanine. Allergy season is upon us, so I might have to turn my head every now and then on this show today. My guest this week is our County Attorney, Dennis Hogan. Welcome, Dennis.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
So you've been on the show before.
I have, yeah. I'm pretty comfortable here now.
Yeah, and your tie matches your sign. I'm impressed.
I always try to match. I have polo shirts, I have rugby shirts, and I have ties that all match the signs.
I try to wear Jeanine green when I'm with my green signs, but I wore blue today because you're here.
Well, thank you.
And well, we're taping this the day before the primary, but neither one of us have a primary,
That's
so
right.
we are going on to the general election.
Right, right.
So I got a lot of questions here for you. Even though you've been on the show before, who knows if anybody remembers anything you said before.
Right. I was thinking of that actually earlier. I should explain what the county attorney is, right?
That was question number one. What do you do?
The office is the prosecution office in Hillsborough County for felony cases. So felony cases are anything as small as the third time somebody is guilty of a theft. Could be, and in fact we deal with some that are, the person has already had 2 convictions, but then they go and they steal a can of Coke, and that becomes a felony. That's as small as we do, and as large as and confusing as a attempted murder, which has all the complications of a murder case, which is murders are handled by the Attorney General's office, but it has all the complications of that. It just wasn't successful. So, and then there's in between there is like 40% of what we do is drug related.
It's New Hampshire.
Well, yeah, drug sales or drug possessions. So that's about 40% of our workload, and any beatings that would be first degree assault, second degree assaults, all the sexual stuff that with children being abused and adults being sexually abused. That's all part of what we do. That whole assault array from all
so
those assaults.
All assault is a felony? Because I've
no, obviously a simple assault is a misdemeanor.
I'm an elected official, so if somebody hurts me, then that's a felon.
Well, there's some misdemeanors that because of the person you've done a misdemeanor assault to, it becomes a felony. So, for example, a police officer.
You just watch it. There's no light on these cameras. If you try to come after me, it's a felony, and I'll shoot you.
Yeah, well, wouldn't advise that, but
well, self-defense.
Yeah, well, that's an issue that we obviously deal with. It goes back to what we learned in law school. Is your defense should be only as serious as it takes to stop the other person. Or you should basically meet the same amount of force. To put it another way. So if you're being approached with deadly force, then deadly force is appropriate. But if you're being approached with force of a different nature, then you should. If you know the person's only going to slap you, then only stopping the slap.
Oh.
Well, only stopping the slap with about the same amount of force.
What if they're a big guy that's going to slap me?
That's where you start debating, right? What position is the person? Like that case down in Florida, which I can talk about because I don't have anything to do with, right? But they're going to debate over whether this he's on the ground, so he felt threatened because the other guy was above, but the other side's going to say, well, that he was stepping away, he had no reason to fear, and that's the debate that's going to go on. But it goes back to that general rule of you should only meet the same amount of force.
Well, it used to be when Democrats were in charge of the state house, the law was you had to try and outrun them first.
And that becomes part of the Florida debate too, because we brought on that what is that called now? I'm drawing a blank.
Castle doctrine.
Yeah, but it was more than that.
Stand your ground.
Stand your ground, right?
Castle doctrine.
Castle doctrine is at home.
At home, right?
Which in my mind makes perfect sense. Castle doctrine makes it a little. Again, it goes back to the confusion. There will be some confusion, I think, and you're going to see it in that Florida case because he's going to say, "Look, I was legally there, and I felt threatened. Here I was on the ground. The guy had just pushed me down, and his response was to stand his ground and shoot the other man. And he's going to use that. He's going to use the stand the ground thing, and thankfully we have not had a problem with stand your ground since its passage. So I'm glad of that.
Well, I haven't had to shoot anybody, so that's good.
But people, if we all act civilly and we deal with this in sort of weeding out what we should do with things, we're trying to decide what we should do with things. You see that if people just act civil, that would go a long way. But what we're trying to do,
just be nice.
Be
nice.
Exactly.
You don't have to agree, but be nice.
Because that's why we hear it all, right? I mean, people want to live together in a city for all the great advantages that there
neighbors,
are. You know, there's a lot of financial advantages for staying close together and being with a lot of other people. That's only going to work out well for everybody if people are civil. And so we have the laws to say, don't do this, don't do that, because those are uncivil things. Like threatening somebody with a gun is totally uncivil. Just to take out the gun and say, you're going to do what I want now. Well, that's entirely uncivil. Or just threatening somebody. Hey, I'm going to get you, and look at this, what I'm going to get you. Those kind of things. Nobody wants to live in an environment where people are doing those sorts of things. So it goes back to an idea of civility, which is what we try to play a part in, so that we can increase the wealth, and I don't mean in a dollar sense, but in a general sense, the wealth of the community.
But
and that's something.
As a 5'2" on a good day, but I'm about 5'1". If I feel threatened, I'm not going to see if I can outrun somebody first. I'm going to defend myself.
Right.
In the only way that I can. I'm not going to try and fight somebody that's a whole lot.
That's the reason for the passage of that when the debate went on. Yeah, people were saying, well, even in running, I might be making myself weaker or making myself a victim because you're saying that I have to run. The debate on the other side was, if you feel threatened with deadly force, you're allowed to use deadly force. Running is to say, well, whatever. The debate's over. We have it, and we're dealing with it. And it hasn't, and thankfully, it hasn't caused any problems. So.
And just in case somebody doesn't know anything about law, they don't watch Law and Order. Can you just explain the difference between the prosecutor and the public defender?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So prosecutors work with for the state. So when somebody on this TV, they say in a lot of dramas, it's the Commonwealth versus, or you might hear the state of New York versus, that sort of thing. So the prosecutor handles the case for the state. And the prosecutor gets their information from the police and sort of advances the police's cause, because the police, if they make a case and they send it to us, they're generally thinking, here's somebody you ought to be prosecuted, because we figured out that they're the one who broke the law, committed the crime. So then the public defender, also paid for by the state, but is being paid and represents the accused person. And the accused person, when you first go to court, you fill out a form, a financial affidavit that tells the court whether or not you have the financial capacity to pay for your own attorney. And if you don't, then they say, would you like one appointed to you? And you
right,
can do that.
Because that's in the, if you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed to you by the court.
And that's where all that comes from.
So, but you're not the one that they would appoint.
Not at all. No,
yeah,
we're working for this. Yeah, right, okay. We're working for the state, and
the word is out that your office is very, very busy.
It's extraordinarily busy. Thankfully, getting a little better. We went through a period just now of not only the opioid crisis and that 40% ballooning, but it causes also other things to balloon. Imagine if people are doing a lot of drugs, there's going to be a lot more thefts from each other. They're going to conflicts with each other. They get violent, all that stuff. So it ballooned up a great deal, and we, of course, went to you all at the county level and said we need more help, and we got some help in 2016 to 17. I think we actually managed to reduce the amount of cases per attorney because we added some attorneys, which was nice. But then, to add insult to injury, we did the felonies first thing. And felonies first is to say, forget the old system where a felony case stops at the circuit court level, in your local court. Let's just bring it straight to the superior court. So what was able to happen in the old system was that the local prosecutor would look at a case, and I go back to the example of that simple case of the theft third, right? They say, well, it's a Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
You really, there's no way we're going to send this person in this case to the superior court, and the person is going to get 3 to 7 years for stealing a Coca-Cola, even though they have those 2 priors. That's not what anybody, I think, intended. Yeah. Everybody looks around and goes, okay, let's just settle as a misdemeanor.
Kind of ridiculous.
So all those cases used to get stopped at the circuit court level. Well, now instead they're coming to my office and becoming part of the great number.
That costs more to do it that way?
Well, I don't know if it costs our office more because somebody has to be assigned to it. Now we actually got over 1,000 more cases from 2017 fiscal year to 2018 fiscal year because we changed to that felonies first system. So we have an additional over 1,000 cases more that we're trying to deal with. So somebody has to deal with those. So that so we've split it up into, all right, well, let's have somebody deal with these easy cases. We'll have some people do those, and then the other, what we call the felony rotation, can continue to work at about the same pace on the cases that we were handling before. So we had to obviously add resources because it's taking us. We had 2 people in Manchester, 1 person in Nashville. I say Nashville and Manchester. What I really mean is North and South Hillsborough County because there's 2 courts, and so I have 2 offices.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Is one in Goffstown? Because your name's on the door.
No, the name's on the door because that's where the county
government. That's where we have
administrator
our meetings.
is, and all that.
But I've never been on that committee, the subcommittee for your office, which is probably good for you because I cut things. I'm like, no, that costs money. That needs to go.
I know. Well, that's the way everybody is, and that's why Felonies First was sold so easy because everybody's thinking. The court said to everybody, this isn't going to cost any more money, and we looked at it and said, well, it's going to cost us more money. It may not cost the government as a whole more money because now, of course, you don't have that judge in the circuit court having to spend time looking at that stuff, so you can not have that judge. That's, on an overall basis, that's probably a good thing. But it did definitely shift the burden onto the county attorney's office to have to deal with those cases that we didn't deal with before. So it's we've managed it. We handled it. It was a big amount of cases more than we had before, and in addition to that, it changed when cases came to us, so they were going to come to us faster. So instead of having, it was September, and instead of dealing with a crime that happened in June only, right, because it took that long to get, June crime eventually gets to us in September. Well, suddenly in September, we're getting all the June crimes, plus all the September crimes because they have to come to us the next day. So September, October, November, the increase in our caseload was just huge. It was like this big ball, it was like watching a water buffalo go through a snake. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting, yeah.
Big lump coming through our system. And in addition, when I told people this would happen, they didn't think I was correct, and so they didn't give me for fiscal year 2018, but 1 additional person. They gave us 1 additional person, which is the same amount of additional people that Merrimack got. Well, Merrimack only has 1 court. I had 2 courts, so you can see that's a little bit, just a bit of a problem for me.
Well, what can we do?
So I explained that to the delegation and the commissioners last time. They gave me 2 more this time. So now I've got 3 additional. Plus, thankfully, the U.S. attorneys have offered to take some of all of the fentanyl cases, and we're just getting started on giving them fentanyl cases. So for them to just say, hey, we'll take those cases because we're going to really do some great work on them, is a great thing for us, just to be getting rid of it. It's a great thing for other reasons, too. The federal government has mandatory sentences. So when somebody gets hit for, arrested for and convicted of a fentanyl charge, they're going to get a lot of time. Well, they can make plea deals if they talk about their, their sources and stuff. And they're going to get leaned on. They're going to be facing a very, very stiff sentence from the federal court, or they're going to be talking. And the feds are going to plan on working their way up and doing a job on fentanyl distributors. And so if you're a fentanyl distributor, beware, you're going away for some time.
Now in New Jersey, when people get caught with drugs, instead of putting them in jail, they put them in rehab. I don't know if that's cost effective, if they're in long enough for it to take effect. I know there was a program, I think it was put into place last term, for drug treatment at the Valley Street Jail, but they're not in it long enough. So it was like pat ourselves on the back. Well, look, we're doing something to help, but we really weren't. We're wasting taxpayers' money because they aren't in the program long enough.
Well,
money down the drain. They go right back to the drugs. I voted no.
We'll see how that does. I wouldn't immediately say it's a waste of money because they're not going to be in the jail the 18 months that they probably take to sort of change their mental health, or the mindset physically. But from the jail, they're supposed to go through some education and, you know, talk about what they need to do, and then the jail is able to let them leave, but watch them at the same time for that full 12 months. Then, you know, it's...
Is there enough of them to watch them?
Well, I mean, they have a program.
Speaking
so
of watching...
I mean, we're talking about dozens of people, not hundreds of people.
Because those guards, I mean, we got the whole tour, and I saw what they have to look at, and like, oh, we don't pay you guys enough.
Yeah, sometimes it's gross.
Yeah, see, that's disgusting.
Sometimes
but they do have like
cases of
video.
You know,
they have like X-ray machines now that they can look at the people and see what they're hiding in their
right. Oh yeah, we have some
places
very strange,
that are not seen when over close.
Yeah, that's strange things.
And some of the pictures we saw, and like, how did they get those objects in there? I don't want to know. Don't want to know.
Well, they're desperate, you know, especially when it comes to sneaking the drugs in. They're desperate to do it.
And how do they get the drugs in? I don't understand. I mean,
body cavities.
Besides body cavities.
That's the reason for that machine, is because, no question, they were sneaking things in their body cavities.
But even if they pass through that without them finding anything, they're still getting drugs. And how, like, there was like a little courtyard. They had to put a screen on top because people were throwing things in or drone dropping things in.
Wow.
And coming down under the patio.
In Valley Street?
Yes.
Wow.
So they put that screen there to stop that. But the drugs are still getting in. It is such a huge problem. And I don't know. I don't know if the answer is putting everybody in jail for doing drugs. I see distributing drugs, yes, but just doing. I don't know. I mean, there's only so much money. You can't keep squeezing the taxpayers.
One of the last times I was here, you know, the guy said, if the person's not willing to stop, you know, all your efforts are for naught. He was saying that.
Oh, that's right. That was Darren Clayton. Yes, the former drug addict. That he was found slumped over a steering wheel. Somebody found him and saved his life. So he's a big advocate for helping people to get off drugs. But
yeah, and I guess we were kind of stuck in trying to do something because we're just we feel like it would be appalling to do nothing, right? I mean, I get calls from parents. Amazingly, they say, please keep my kid in longer. What can you do to keep them in the jail longer? If they get out, they're going to die.
Right, and it's heart-wrenching, all these stories of families being torn apart. So many kids that are living with their grandparents because their parents are on drugs. Manchester's especially bad in that.
But, you know, I mean, it's worth debating, I suppose, and I'm not going to say I'm advocating. It's worth debating.
But at the same time, you can't keep squeezing the taxpayers.
Right.
Why does this family have to, you know, give up more of their paycheck because that person wants to take drugs? It's really hard, and there's no easy answer.
No, there isn't. There isn't an easy answer. If there were, it would be solved by now, because I think everybody agrees that it's a bad thing.
Exactly.
It's just
like,
what do we do about it?
Tooth decay is a bad thing too. I mean, what are we gonna do?
I know. Don't make me talk about that.
Some things are a given. You know, it's like clean water, clean air. Yes, of course we all want clean water and clean air. Some people are going around saying that we don't care about that, and I'm like, oh, that's not true. That's kind of a given, isn't it? Of course we want clean water. Nobody. That's a Merrimack issue.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to ride my bicycle up around the what's the name of that?
Cobain. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we did pass House Bill 1101.
I lived on Middlesex Road back in the 80s, 90s, which is part of the Hovnanian, what is that called? Hovnanian condominium complex. Society Hill. You know that?
Okay, I know where that is.
Yeah, I bought a place there when it was being built, and would ride my bike out on the tracks in the back there and near St. Cobain. And boy, it didn't look like there was anything wrong.
No, and there's actually other things in the water besides PFOAs. I've never trusted tap water. I just have a niece that would fill up the put the baby formula and tap water and shake it up, and I would just cringe. I'm like, you don't know what's in there. I mean, how do you? And I used to have a neighbor that used to make fun of me because I always bought bottled water. She said, there's nothing wrong with the water. I'm like,
well, I'm sure I did the same thing. Is there somebody? So I can blame all my first child's problems on St. Cobain? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. Yeah, but if it wasn't that, it'd be something else because the whole world's toxic.
Yeah.
So we really have to live in a bubble and probably still have something wrong because there's things that genetically go wrong.
Well, I know that Merrimack has wells, right, for its tap water. Did they stop taking water from the wells of Merrimack? I understood it was over in Litchfield.
It-
Like it seeped across under the river or
and I
something?
think parts of Bedford too
Oh,
were
really?
affected as well. Because we were just talking about a new pipe or something going in Bedford, and they're paying for it, St. Cobain. So, yeah, it is an issue.
Yeah.
I know when they were blasting for the outlet mall, that's supposed to be a protected wellhead up there that serves 60% of Merrimack, and they were using the dirty stuff to blast. And like, yeah,
Oh, really?
I'm not going to drink that.
Oh.
Because, you know, even though you just never know. If my dishwasher turns orange, well, I'm not drinking that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard. It's like, you know, you have to, we all have a budget. You know, your budget is, you know, let's see, I can have pizza or I can buy bottled water. For, you know, how much is a pizza compared to how much is a bottled water? It's gone up. It was $1.99 a gallon. Now it's at $1.20, I think.
Well, were you going to tell me about what you're doing in Washington?
Oh, yeah, that was exciting. Thank you. I just got back from Washington. My friend Victoria Sullivan and I were both state representatives, and we worked on a bill to criminalize female genital mutilation.
Oh.
So that's another given. Like, of course, nobody wants that. Well,
Yeah.
it was being done, you know, back alley, you know, and
Really?
it's horrible. And we heard the stories of the women that have had this done to them,
Right.
and pleading with us, please
Any in New
stop the
Hampshire?
cutting. Yes, in New Hampshire.
really?
Yes. So
And we didn't have it against the law, so there was nothing we could do.
No.
Huh.
Yeah, because but it's a crime now. And
Felony, I imagine?
Yes, it is
Wow.
the Senate added teeth to it as well, so it made it even stronger, and the governor signed it. So Victoria and I were given an award. What is it called? National Security Patriotism Award. So that was really exciting. We're flown to Washington, and we met with Ted Cruz, Congressman Louis Gohmert. Let's see, Congressman Steve King, and then there was another senator. I don't know. Remember the Freedom Summit from before a couple of presidential elections ago? It was in. I think you were there. We were all there. That poster, all those faces, they were there.
Oh, okay.
So, and I stopped at Ted Cruz's office and got an 8x10 signed, and then I went to Rand Paul's office to get one for my son because he loves them.
Wow.
So,
Good.
yeah, it was.
Well,
really
it's interesting
cool.
to see if anybody violates that law. I mean, we have to prosecute it.
Yeah. So you haven't had any. Well.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's a new law,
Yeah.
but
No, I didn't know of anybody doing it.
no, it's like ripping part of your
Yeah,
body
it's
off.
yeah, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and there was no reason for it, no medical reason for it at all. Unlike male circumcision, there can be a medical, what's the word, hygiene?
Hygienic, yeah.
Hygienic issue.
My mother was a naturalist. She grew up watching cows do their thing, and so she said, "Yeah, we don't need any of that in our family." So,
You know the
and I'm
Marine
thankful.
Corps, the Marine Corps monument.
no.
Iwo Jima, the flag
Oh, yeah,
raising.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Oh, sure.
Rene Gagnon was one from.
Oh
Rene
yeah,
Gagnon
yeah. I've
from
read it. Yeah,
Manchester.
I've read Flags of Our Fathers. Great
Yes.
book.
Oh, I love that
All
book.
about
Yeah. Bradbury. Yes. And then there was Harlan Block. Harlan Block was one of the flag raisers. And did you know that his mother recognized him, pointed him out by his rear end? Nobody
I
believed
think I
her.
remember.
She goes,
That
no,
sounded right because they
that's in the
thought
book.
he might have been deceased, right, or something like that. But
No,
she was
said,
like,
no,
"There he is."
that's how I changed that diaper enough. I know that's my son.
Because
And
maybe
it
they
was.
didn't first give him a recognition. There was one. There wasn't that the one, and she insisted
there
it
was
was.
actually
'cause
two
she-
of them
yeah.
that they weren't sure
Yeah.
about, but he
Yeah.
was one of them, and he was his rear end. She recognized.
Yeah.
And then
That's
Ira
great.
Hayes, the Indian.
Yep.
Yep. So, but our Uber driver, or I think it was Lyft, he had never seen it. So when I asked him to drive us around, he went around 3 times and he stopped the car so he could take a picture. He was so impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever. That's across the Potomac, isn't it?
It's in Arlington.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So
It's
maybe I have
pretty
seen
close to the.
it. See, it's hard for me to remember what I've
cemetery.
actually seen and what I've just seen on TV.
Well,
Because
I
so
know-
often
well, I
those
was
things
in-
are shown on TV, and I've been down there a few times, different times, and been around, and so I don't remember what I've
Well,
actually
and I was
seen.
just there last month. A bunch of the state reps. We went down
Right.
for meetings in D.C. and as soon as we got back, we had the invitation to go again. And
It's such a beautiful city.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what impresses me about it is the size. Because they knew they were going to be ruling a continent when they built that. And that impresses me. Like they really had a vision for what this place was going to be
And everything's lined up.
When they started out, right.
But
you know, when you see the distance between the things, you think, well, that's really big. When I say that in comparison to when I went to Bangkok, and you know, for Siam, for Siam, right? You've got Bangkok. You're gonna have the capital, and you look, and it's like, this is a really small. Like where they were gonna do everything was a small place. It was like, you know, probably could fit into a mall. And you know, it was probably built at about the same time, maybe a little bit before. But you really get the sense of Siam knew it was small, or at least the size that it was, right? And it wasn't going to need that much more. But the American founding fathers, I think, really had a perception that they were going to build. They were going to build something really big.
Incredibly smart men.
Yeah. I'm just reading a book right now about Ben Franklin. Talk about a smart guy. Oh my God.
Oh gosh, he invented so many things.
Yes.
Yeah.
A musical instrument, in fact.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. I can't think of what it's called, but we only have a minute left.
Oh.
That's why my show is called Chattin. You know, very informal, because it's not a question and answer interview or stuffy. We end up talking just about all kinds of things. We didn't.
Hey, listen, I got to remind people to vote for me.
Yes.
because you know, you need to have somebody with good judgment. And that's what I provide for you as the county attorney. We've done a great job. We've adjusted to a lot of problems, but have done a great job in doing that. And I'm hoping for a status quo next 2 years so we can smooth things out after the rocky course we just had. So thanks. Where am I? I should have been looking at one of these.
Yeah,
cameras.
Well, yeah, the little red light went off, so Justin will just adjust it. So I guess that was on. We were both on that camera. But thanks for coming.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me very much.
You can come back anytime.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And now I'm going to look in that camera and assume that it's on. And I'll see you. I'll keep taping new shows all the way up until we get really, really busy again in Concord, assuming that you send me back there. So thank you. Thanks for watching.